Hey there, my name's Joe Keyport, and you're listening to the Ear Coffee Podcast. For this week's episode, I chat with Jacob and Desmond of the Long Island punk rock band Career Day. Now, if you remember last year, we had the band on originally to talk about their debut EP, but now they're back to talk about their debut record, Where We've Always Been. And if you love twinkly emo music mixed with pop punk and has an actual substance to it, you'll love this record. It was a great time to catch up with the band, to see what they've been doing since we talked originally in 2021. We got to dig into the meat of what was going on in this album and just kind of get to bullshit like we always do. It's Desmond and Jacob of Career Day, and it's all right here on the Ear Coffee Podcast. How's it going?
It's good. How are you?
Good over here. It's very hot in the city. I think Jacob's on vacation
in sunny North Carolina, in the Outer Banks.
How's the human beings been there?
Not very flavorful.
Okay.
No.
But it's been good though. It's sunny. I'm staying in a beach rental, going to the beach every day.
Nice.
Getting to get some sun, hanging out. Much needed break from the city, from New York.
So for people who don't know who Career Day is, I mean, you've been on the podcast already over a year and a half ago when I was keeping an eye on the news because when we first chatted, the government was almost overthrown. So I didn't want to...
January 6th, baby. I always remember January 6th, 2021 as the insurrection attempt / the first Career Day Ear Coffee collab. They're very momentous moments in history.
True. People will remember both those things. Hopefully there won't be there won't be a tribunal for the latter. But we never know how things go.
You never know.
So for people again who don't know who you are, you want to quick just introduce yourselves and what you do?
Sure. I'm Desmond and I sing.
I'm Jake and I play guitar.
And we're from New York City with Long Island roots and whatnot.
Yeah, and so something I've started asking bands since our interview is, how do you describe Career Day to people who don't either it's like your coworker who's like, oh cool, you play in a band, what kind of band is it? Or it's like a family member at Christmas or at some other holiday who's you haven't seen in a year or two, and they're like, oh, what do you do? And you're like, oh, you play in a band now. What's your line or your kind of short little descriptor that you always try to tell people what Career Day is?
To family members?
Or random people or, kind of that.
The coworker, yeah.
Yeah.
I made the mistake of recently letting a coworker find out that I was playing music. So I had to, I think I actually experienced that recently. I think I tried saying you remember Taking Back Sunday? And that was never heard those words in that sequence before. And then it was Blink-182, and they're like, yeah. And I was like, okay, what if it was like that, but it was about meaningful things?
People usually, whenever I tell people that, they say, oh, so Green Day. And I'm like, I guess it's great. We'll just stop there. I guess it's Green Day.
Usually, it's always you say that, and then it's I guess, and then at that point the conversation has had such little momentum that you just got to keep that train moving along.
You get into the I'm sorry I asked territory. You're just trying to make small talk.
Bring it into sports, or a movie you've seen lately. Your brain's just chanting
politics.
Exactly. So we can skip the, if people want to know more about the formation of the band and, some of the backstory, they can go listen to that original episode. But
the January 6th episode,
the monumental January 6th episode. But when we first chatted back in 2021, the band hadn't played a show yet, and you kind of you had reformed right at the beginning of the pandemic or just before, and since then you put out an EP, and you're about to put out. It'll be out at the time of this, the release of this episode, debut record. But kind of catch me up on what you've been doing in the last year and a half.
I guess I'm skipping ahead a little bit here,
Yeah.
but actually, so a lot of what happened was we kept writing throughout the pandemic. I think I might have touched on it on the previous episode, but so we had Jacob and I would meet up, especially because pandemic, it was like it was the plague,
Yeah.
you know, so you had to like pick and choose your spots of seeing each other or seeing anybody. But Jacob and I made some time to once a week or at least a couple times a month get together, usually outside, and just sit with he'd show me some guitar ideas, and I would, you know, see if there were some melody ideas that I'd tell him to kind of, okay, loop that, keep playing that a bit, or I'd have some melody lyric ideas. It was usually the former, but sometimes it was the latter, and we just kept doing that. We kept writing, we kept demoing, and after I would say late May, early June, we got to a point where we felt that we had written enough songs and tried to write enough songs that we'd put together an album of songs. And we wanted to record. And so we recorded last summer. We tracked at Matt Lagatuta's studio, Flying Carpet Studio, out on Long Island, and then we had it mixed and mastered by Billy Menino at Two World Studio, and we were lucky enough to. We can dive into the thing. I'm just giving you the Wikipedia here.
Yeah.
The overview.
But actually, we can leave it there because you know a lot of the other stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, well, I want to do a bit of a dive into kind of a track by track a little bit here, and we can kind of break down some more of the songs as we kind of move forward. So you were able to, what was the first, because you were finally able to play music in front of people and not just be, because you hadn't played a show when we chatted. When was that first show you got to play?
It was this past October. It was October 24th. It was like a Halloween show at the Massapequa VFW. I mean, it was wild, honestly. Like, so I mean, story of the times, it almost didn't happen because I got sick, about a month before.
Okay.
And got healthy just in time to get through it. And, but that was just like, all right, fuck. Like, thought we are gonna get to play. Oh, nope. I finally caught the bug. Yeah. And great. Now it's not gonna happen. And it just I cleared within like a week or so of it.
Nice.
But it was scary. It was down to the wire, and it was scary, and to the point where like I wasn't able to practice with the guys leading into it. So it was just like, I don't know. It was just one of those things where, in a way, it was like everything else with this band. Like, it's been a lot of stop and start. So for that, it was just like, all right, just be glad that you're able to play this, and don't get so in your head about like putting on, or you got to make sure you're the most perfect thing. It's also VFW. So, but it's great. I mean, I love VFW shows, and it was kind of nice to get to come back into that. But it was, I don't know. It was I wish I could say it was more of a relief, but because it was just getting healthy was like such a thing. It kind of, I don't know, clipped it a little bit for me personally. But Jacob, I don't know how you felt.
Yeah, I mean, I think my stand away point from that show, and almost every show we've played since then, is that our set is almost entirely all the songs from our album too. So we were getting to play songs to people, and I think it was technically put after we recorded, but we were getting to people were getting their first listens basically to all of our friends and locals that were getting first listens to this album that's coming out, and we were getting to kind of start to gauge people's reactions to certain songs and stuff like that. And I thought that was a really cool thing to do. It was a weird, unique experience for us, because I feel like a lot of bands don't have that.
Yeah, I think we finished tracking within about a month before that show.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe, yeah.
Okay,
so we started tracking in August and finished in September, I want to say.
Yeah. So you at least were like fresh enough on the songs. You didn't feel totally like uncomfortable trying to try something new live.
No.
No, and we had been practicing them too leading up to the tracking to like make sure we were really tight on it and what we were doing.
And also because, with in general, like the full band versions of the songs, we had only written them as a band. A bulk of them happened in the pandemic era, so we only had so many like renditions of actually playing it as a live band, because Jacob and I would write the songs acoustically, and then we would when we'd have enough to try to show the rest of the band, we would like plan a trip, and we went up to our former drummer's family has a house upstate that we just would go to for a weekend and just throw all these ideas that we'd worked with each other to the rest of the band and get to actually hear them full, which would change it. So it's like it was kind of a nonstop of writing it and then like being excited that we caught it, and then okay, we have the full band. Okay, great. Now let's make the plan to record, and then we have to make sure we practice before we record, because you guys have only played that a couple times and we're really stoked on how we demoed it. Like, but yeah, it was just kind of leading up to that show. That show was almost like a nice internal celebration of just like, all right, cool.
Yeah. So then the new record's titled Where You've Always Been, which, like I said, it'll be out by the time this episode comes out. So talk to me more about the period that these songs were written over, because you mentioned you were writing them kind of throughout 2021 and finished tracking last summer. So talk to me about kind of what was going on with y'all that you're putting into these songs and trying to like convey throughout the record.
So it's called Where We've Always Been, because a lot of it is kind of circles around reflections at like it's a mix of like realizations, outrage, and then realizations at the things that you are personally or collectively outraged about.
Yeah,
they're gross now. But the reason, like those issues have permeated for such a very long time.
Yeah,
and it's kind of this real, like it's a mix of I would say an outpouring of outrage and an attempt to how to cope with the fact that none of these things are new. A lot of these issues have been around longer than we've been alive, and as such it's not going to be an easy fix, and you're not going to be able to infographic your way out of it. So yeah, I mean, like, it's a mix of, some of the songs were written or if No Problem and If Only were the two songs that were demoed in full in 2020. So we had those songs on lock, even though the aspects of just the commentary on race relations and the commentary on like suburban politics and grief and death, even though those became much more, if anything, having those songs already encouraged us to like, let's keep writing songs, even though we don't know if the world, if this plague thing is going to take over for 5 years or whatnot. But like, it seems like we already were hitting at things, and I was like, lyrically, I was looking towards writing about things that keep me up at night that I don't have an answer for, but needed to have some sort of tangible outlet to speak to that lack of feeling of safety or contentment.
Jacob, do you have anything to add, or is that?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think Desmond hit the nail on the head on a lot of elements to it, but also something that I just wanted to add in too is that originally when we started writing a couple of the songs in late 2019, early 2020, we just had the idea. We were like, oh, we'll just do like another EP. Like we'll just do like a 5 or 6 one. But again, as like things kept progressing with COVID, we were like, well, maybe we should just like keep writing and see what happens. Cause we were like, there's only so many opportunities someone can have to write a whole album. And I was, at that time I was going through a major, just like, well, I was stressed about the world. I was stressed about the fact that I was on unemployment for like 9 months, got laid off at the beginning of COVID. I don't know, something sparked in me and I just started writing like crazy. And I started showing Desmond this, that, and this. And we were like, well, this is a song, this is a song, this is a song, this is a song. Let's just keep going and see what happens.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so I want to start digging into kind of song by song, because there's like the fact that you said it's like the pop punk bands you mentioned, but they mean something, is like a great way to like describe this record, because because I thought the same way. Like I wrote down, you had like the tropes that you kind of find with like the hometown and stuff, but you like there's more there. There's like what we see every day and what people have to deal with every day. So it opens up with Views from 516, which I like. My little note here is just, boy, does this band know how to write an opening track. So like take me through the song, kind of what it means and what you're putting into it.
So and Jacob, definitely when you talk, you got to talk about the riff, and I feel like that there's a whole story to that, but this is a song that, I mean, to kind of like you said, I didn't necessarily know off the top that it was going to be the opening track, but it did kind of feel that way for a while. And it feels like, so for me, like Jacob kind of just said, how many chances do you get to have this much time to write an album? I've never written an album before. And with that in mind, how many chances do you get to have a first album, and how many chances do you get to have the first song on a first album? And for me, it's like all these songs are songs that I feel like I needed to write. And one of the songs that I felt that I needed to write was a song about visual, like how visible the inequities that we live in are. So like the 516 is Nassau County, Long Island's area code. And it is, I'm not sure if you're aware of the history of Levittown. It's kind of where suburbs started. Mm-hmm. That is where Black soldiers coming back from, I think it was World War II, were denied GI loans to get houses, even though that was the whole premise of Levittown. Mm-hmm. So the only thing that beats the imperialism is the racism, I guess. But anyway, it's like historically, it's a place of segregation. Mm-hmm. But that's it's not just historically; it's present day. The disparity in school funding, the disparity in police stops, the disparity in everything. In towns that border each other on Long Island is a huge thing. And for me, there's so many songs about hometowns. There's so much people tend to love to rep Long Island and all this stuff. And it's like, look, there've been a lot of great bands from Long Island. That's cool. But you shouldn't be proud of Long Island just because, a handful of bands that play great, subgenre music. I don't think that should outweigh your desire to recognize what this place is. And the song is about literally, like the first verse is about the Garden City Hempstead border. Garden City is this town, predominantly white. A bunch of pro athletes live there. It's just nothing but mansions. And there's literally a train track, and then it's Hempstead, and that's where it's black and brown. That's where the schools are so horribly in the state of disrepair, and and for me, if I felt a need to write a song that's just about like, look, and knowing the moment, like look around you right now, because it's not just Long Island. Every municipality and suburb has this type of redlining of real estate that just marks privilege and class, and it's not enough just to see it. Everybody's been talking about things are so messed up, man. We have to be different.
Yeah.
And there's never any action call. And this is a song that's about like, looking that dead in the eye, but also understanding, okay, acknowledging it is not enough. Like, and that this is it's not just generational. Like, there's lines there that are about how people that I grew up with that are late 20s, early 30s have boomer ass opinions, and they are going to keep that even when the boomers die off. They're going to be that carrying the MAGA torch. They're going to be carrying all that ethno-nationalistic shit. Like, and you have to be ready to take that on. I mean, and also I just want to mention that I kind of, the second verse, I allude to the town that I grew up in, Floral Park, having integration fights in the 80s, and that's a fact. That's I can send you a link to.
He's got the sources.
A New York Times article from like 1985 or 86 about like parents not wanting the wrong kids to get into the school district.
That's insane.
The whole busing craze.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then, Jacob, talk to me. Desmond, said there's a story behind the riffs there, or?
Yeah. So during, I guess, like after the second chorus, when there's this like kind of fun, slidey, honestly, like it's a mix of like a noodly Midwest emo riff with like some of like country and blues and rock, just like sort of had like phrasing going in there too. That was originally going to be the intro, that little riff. That was going to be, I originally shown Desmond the song, and that was first. And we were trying to come up with something to like follow that. And we kind of realized after a while that shouldn't have been, like it should have been where it ended up. It was too strong of a thing to open with. We wanted to kind of hide it a little bit in the song, because I think then we were just going to use, like we were using the riff as like transitions between like choruses too, and it wasn't going to work. But in general, like that song, I just really wanted to write like I don't even know, like it's driving, and it's really cool, especially because it's like the drums on it is like very passing through a screen door vibe when like when driving through Floral Park, and it's just like the drums are just going, and I just really wanted to write this driving pop punk song that has these like moments of like Newfound Glory-esque like halftime, half stop, and just like really throw together like a classic. Like we are all from Long Island, and we do all love Taking Back Sunday and I Am the Avalanche and the movie, and just like everybody, but we're doing our own thing. We're making a statement with it, and we're throwing in new elements too, kind of like a new American songbook, but for pop punk.
Yeah, it definitely feels like it should be like a song played during like the opening credits of like a movie, like just the vibe of like credits are rolling, like is like the main character is like we learning who they
American
are.
Pie 85.
Yeah.
Whatever the next Superbad is going to be, maybe
Yeah.
more emotionally sensitive and culturally appropriate Superbad.
And when Desmond started coming up with the lyrics, I was like, all right, we really need to make sure this song like it really hits you and it slams you in the face. I think we tried to do that a lot on this record, that we really like when we were talking about like types of songs we wanted to write and bands that we wanted to draw influences from, we were like, man, we really just want people to like sit back after hearing the song and being like, holy like crap, like that was intense, that hit me in the face, like I need more. And I think that's what we try to do on that first one.
So then moving from there into the second track and the first single off the record, No Problem. Like I feel like you, Desmond, you posted on social media a fair bit about what that song's about, and for people who haven't listened to it yet, you should check it out. But I felt like listening through it, the line "Anthem of Model Minorities" really kind of summed up what you were trying to come across in like one clean phrase. So like talk to me about that song a little bit.
So I'm Filipino, and there is this, I think, tendency. I think the place Filipinos exist for a lot of people, and the way I always hear people talk about, I have this, this coworker is Filipino, or so, this, and the framing is always in this super jovial, easygoing perspective that docile, at times docile. And I kind of wanted to write a song that spoke against that character, against that stereotyping. And a lot of it is drawn from literal arguments that I had with people I grew up with on Long Island. That's kind of, again, I mentioned realizations. Like, there were arguments that I had over I would say 2014 to every fucking day, that there are things that are said to me by people that I grew up with that usually not friends, usually just people that I was like friendly enough with, thought were, decent, quote unquote, people, that would just like throw out such heinous, like racist, bigoted shit that when I would speak up against them, saying like, that's kind of fucked up. Why do you say that? What do you mean by that? It would become this thing where they would be so incredulous at me for me being out of step in questioning them, that it is kind of dawned on me like, oh, you think I'm part of this like white dude centric worldview that I don't fit in with at all. And, and Philip, it's about kind of like, the first verse is literally drawn from an argument that I had. Actually, the first verse is my approaching that argument, and the second verse is literally quotes that I had gotten back from people that I was having arguments with. And it's just, that song is kind of just, no problem. Filipinos are, if you know a Filipino, you might know them to say, no problem, it's okay, no problem. And I kind of wanted to use that as a hook to turn this idea of being an agreeable model minority on its head.
Okay. Jacob, do you have any kind of from your end is like writing guitar parts and kind of arranging that track? I vividly remember sitting like in my first like New York City apartment, writing like in my bed, just like coming up with fun, like just trying to come up with something, something fun or just something interesting. And it just kind of, it was a song that wrote itself, really, especially once all of us got in a room together. Because I had one version of the song that was pretty done already, but then once we all started playing and all started reacting to it, that was very much like a song where we all reacted to each other, and it kind of from there took off. And the second that we got it down, that was it. Like we didn't change it, we didn't touch it. And that's why it's been that way ever since then. And it's just another one where I'm just trying to really fight it and be really loud and proud. And it's also I think it's a fun one. I think it's the music behind it sounds kind of happy in a way. Yeah.
even though it's like loud and intense, but it's like this like big joyous, like we're all having a party and we're all like shouting at, at all these people, and we're just like having a good time.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely a chant along song with the way the chorus is written.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which is always a little within the like context of what the song's about feels a little strange, but yeah.
Yeah, it is, but these are strange times.
Yeah. Well then moving on to It Never Ends, which has a guitar solo, which is the only guitar solo I think on the record, right?
In a sense, yeah. Like traditional
like guitar solo,
rock guitar solo.
Yeah.
But all the songs in general have some sort of like most of them for the most part have like some funky, interesting like guitar part in the bridge that I always call like the solo. But yeah, that definitely is the only like butt rock, classic rock guitar solo. Like Bayside shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a song that it's the guitar like that was a song where it was just like as we were crafting it, it was like I gotta let Jacob have one. I gotta let him, I gotta let him just have one, and I'm just I'm gonna figure out what to put over it. Mm. But like I don't think I could, nor would I even want to pull it away from pull it into maybe a darker, more like traditional punk sounding space, because no, like it's, and I think that song kind of being a little bit different musically kind of helps with giving, there's a lot of thematic changes on the album, a lot of similar commentary points or headspaces, and with that, it was like, how can I bring this societal lens into a song like this? And it was interesting. It was like, let me lean into, let me make it even darker. If we're doing really bouncy stuff, but turning things, and it was like, I wrote that song, the lyrics largely about the feeling that nonviolence has passed. Like the belief in nonviolence has kind of soured. Yeah. A lot of the lyrics, like I think the only thing I had for a while, I think that was one where the verses were definitively, like they got closer and closer as the studio came closer, but I had like the chorus, another futile round where we're told how gotta be peaceful. Like just this feeling of 2020 just being stuck inside, watching I used to work at the ACLU right before the pandemic. I just finished working at the ACLU of New York for 3 years on Long Island, which is, I used to have to drive through a lot of those neighborhoods that would instantly switch from privilege to to just completely maligned. But so for me, it was just as I was sitting on the couch, just like absolutely slumped. It was just this feeling of like, I don't think this shit's going to change. And like, you had the most protests I've ever seen in my life, and the machinery did not really move in any noticeable example, and has continued to just go all the way back. And it was just so that's a song that's kind of a whole commentary on the feeling of futility with this notion of like, just, be well-intended and good-spirited and all that, and being on, and you'll end up on the right side of history and we'll win. And it's about I'm not thinking it's going to be that easy.
It's like the Disney Channel theme of like, if we're all friends and are good people, we'll come out on top. And you're like, yeah, that's cool and all, but it doesn't help,
Yeah, I mean, that's I tried to be very intentional about intentionality is all over this album, and it's like track sequencing. Like I liked, it was like, okay, this is the first three songs kind of get a worldview kind of established. Because I figured most people didn't hear the EP, so most people's first experience with this, especially shout out to Old Press Records for putting the album out. More people will hear this, and it was like, be very intentional about what people first hear and what you first say, and the first line of that song. I'm starting to think that the Coexist bumper stickers really ain't doing much. And that is just kind of where I'm at with talking about any of this, especially someone that's been an organizer for a while. It's just like, I don't know. There's no quick thing. So, and it's not the way we get to somewhere better is not not going to be infographicked out.
Gotcha. So then, because you mentioned, this album is very much lumped, or not lumped, but laid out in kind of different thematic ways. Once we get past those first three songs, we kind of switch gears almost a little bit theme wise. And into kind of that middle section, which kind of is a new title, which I believe was the most recent single you put out.
Yep.
Which is kind of, I think, the first quote unquote love song the band has done, for lack of a better term. So kind of take me into this middle section of the record, and what you were what this kind of view you wanted to portray to people, starting with a new title.
So a new title is just kind of an introduction to the personal rather than the philosophical or political, and personal do overlap, obviously. And even within the more upbeat songs, there are glimpses of the horrors of the world. There's allusions to how any goodness in the world feels like an aberration, an oasis at times now. And with this, this is a song that is about my fiance. It's about kind of that feeling of letting yourself feel love and letting yourself buy in to letting yourself buy into just the transformative feeling of love, and in particular of a person, of a person to build and share your life with, and for your life to become. And it's a song that kind of is just about that feeling you find of falling, and a bit of a reflection on, wow, this worked out. How lucky is that, and how great is that? And it's about kind of the embrace and the joy of finding more to build with someone.
Gotcha. Jacob, talk to me about writing kind of your parts here on this one.
Yeah, so at least when I came up with the guitar and kind of the skeleton of the song, this is also kind of another one of those. I was able to kind of write it in an afternoon, and came up with it in 20 minutes. But I just started playing around with chords, and I just really loved, I don't know, just it sounded pretty. I was writing on acoustic, and it sounded beautiful, and I was like, man, this would be a cool and I'm a sucker for a ballad. Yeah. I'm a Pisces. I'm a sucker for a love song. And it's just it was just such lovely chords, just such nice stuff. And I just felt too, then we went with the tempo that we went with, because it just it feels good. It feels great in that pocket. And it's I'm just trying to think of the best way to describe it, but it gives you those feels on the inside about the same, the way that love makes you feel. And I was definitely in a happier place when I was writing it. So I know I've always felt in general too, when Desmond and I, when we're writing, we always somehow end up like subconsciously coming up with stuff for each other that just like for some reason we're in the same headspace or something. It just like
It's called Stockholm. It's called Stockholm syndrome, my man. The Stockholm syndrome of doing bands.
Yeah. Get on that same wavelength.
At the time, I was listening to a lot of Starting Line too, and I just like was feeling super inspired. And it's just like I feel like it's a really cool homage to that era of music too. And it's just
Drive Through record. It's very a Newfound Glory Starting Line.
But yeah, and it's just super simple too. You know, it's not a lot of chords, it's not a lot of parts, but it's also just like it's fun. It's like a dance. Like you can kind of dance to it. I feel. And, yeah. And I feel like it's cool that we let it breathe too. We've got plenty of little instrumental bits here and there. You know.
Yeah. Well, then opposite of A New Title is Opposite Way, which is almost like an antithesis a little bit. So talk to me about that one.
So yeah, this is a song that it was one of those things where it was like, it's written from like the perspective. I felt weird writing it on some level because it's like, I have not been in a breakup situation in like 8 years. Like, so it'd been a while, but it was one of those things where, you know, Jacob, as we were writing around, as we were like playing around with the skeleton idea of the riff and the song, when he played the chorus, I was like, I kind of had this melody and like the words kind of came out and it was like, you know what, let's ride this. Cause I like it, this feels it's, I'm not sure if it's if reductive is the right word, but it's like, this feels like a breakup song. Yeah. Like it was one of those things where it's just like, there's something about this that feels like, so let me just channel like the feeling of like, what would be a unique type of breakup song. It's really not a breakup. It's like a post-breakup song.
Yeah.
I think, and it's about the feeling. It's about processing the feeling of like, you know, you break up with this person, you do your own thing, you know, and then like you're feeling like, yeah, whatever. I got my new stuff going on, blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, you're at like a party or a bar or something, and then you see that person.
Yeah.
And all that like, yeah, I don't care. I don't care. All that is gone. Yeah. And you're just like, you're annoyed. You're pissed.
I hope they don't see me. I hope they don't see me. I hope they don't see me.
I hope they don't see me, but also like, how dare, like being mad. Like it's about like understanding the immature, like the way I kind of have explained it when even Jacob and I were trying to like, and I was trying to like understand how to approach the song was like either the most story so far Motion City soundtrack would ever get, or the most Motion City soundtrack the story so far would ever get in terms of like having that like energy, but having the lyrics be about like, all right, wait a second. I'm stupid. I'm stupid for being annoyed. I feel like a loser. Oh God, I just need this night to end kind of feeling where it's like, it's about processing just like, oh fuck. Damn. Why does this bother me so much still? Like or that's kind of what the bridge portion gets to, but that's kind of simpler story, but it was just like, it felt like, on some level, it was also nice from a writing standpoint to be like, you are trying to capture a feeling that is like obviously drawn from like autobiographical feelings or whatnot, but like this is not something that like you're burning to say. Like say it was a nice kind of lyrical practice in that regard.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, and I feel I was just saying, then like musically, this song is kind of all over the place too. Especially like this is one of the songs that we worked on that things kind of like we've kind of messed around with it a little bit in the studio too. Like the structure was still the same, but we kind of like jumped around a little bit here and there with like trying to build tension and whatnot. Like. And it's just like the huge dramatic in the choruses and the pre-choruses and like the little intro to like huge, big, dramatic, over the top sounding stuff, even to the point where like I was able to sneak like an easy core breakdown bridge in there.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
just for a half.
Yeah, when you played that, I remember like being in the studio and just because a lot of times you don't hear a song till you're recording it. Like you don't really
know what's going on.
fully hear the song. And I wasn't sure if that was a late addition from him or he had it always. It was always there, and just like in the chaos of the couple times we played it in the practice space, that like I didn't notice it, but like I just remember sitting there and just being like, all right, I guess we have a 4-year strong, like, I guess we have a Rise or Die Trying part to this, like, 2002 drive-through record song.
With, like, a weird, like, country riff in the verses, and then just, like, loud, big, open tuning chords, and just, like...
A lot of these songs are just Rube Goldberg experiments where we're just kind of like setting up little things, little things that move into the other.
Yeah, it's just like, I don't know. Like, I feel like I just take a lot of, I'm such a sponge too. And like, I just take stuff from here, there, and everywhere and stuff I've heard like through my entire life. And, like, I definitely went through an Americana phase in 2012 and like,
oh man, did you have a fashionable hat? Did you have the fashionable
the newsboy hat and
I tried
sideburns?
No, I had like a wide brim like hat thing that looked more like an Indiana Jones hat than like a I don't know, like a Marcus Mumford looking thing.
Yeah, what was the deal with that, by the way? If I may ask two white folk here, what was the deal? What happened in like 2010, 11, 12, where like collectively it was like we're doing banjos again, and
it just felt good.
What happened? Was there a meeting?
It was interesting. I think it was just, a bunch of literally a bunch of bands all like, so I'm sure some like muckety muck A&R guy was like, this is gonna be the next big thing.
He wore a hat.
Yeah.
He wore a hat. It was I think you should leave hat skit, but everybody loved it and everybody went with it.
It was like all the scene bands like were getting done, and so then they're like, well, we all have acoustic guitars, and this is a little easier than like hanging out with a bunch of people. Yeah.
I think people were also overwhelmed by like the overabundance of all the like dance music at the time too, and I think it was just like a breath of air for some people. I know me personally, I was not into a lot, but I was also young. Like at that time, I was in like 9th grade, so it's different.
Yeah, I didn't know. Like I mentioned, growing up Long Island, I've had to study white people a lot, but I've never had a direct answer for where'd the banjo revolution come from 10 years ago.
I don't know, but when you find more banjos in like pop music than country music, there might be a little bit of a problem. So.
Yeah, for sure.
So then moving on, there's If Only, which feels like you're like processing of death or something like that, the loss of something. Yeah. So
that's going to be the third single.
Okay.
And by the time this is out, it's all out. But yeah, this was one that if we fingers crossed, we'll see. Maybe we get vinyl someday. We'll see, I don't know. But the B side would be this, and that was also another intentional kind of thing.
The first song.
This would be the first song, and like I mentioned, this was written actually before the pandemic, like lyrically written entirely, enough that we were able to demo it in quarantine, and so like even though all the death of COVID, I lost people to it. That makes it feel that much richer. But it originally was just about death in general, how I've felt growing up, where, town I grew up in has had endless amount of youth deaths to overdose, and just as I was getting into my 20s and then into my 30s, it's just people just seeing death more and more often and not being able to, the difficulty of wanting to console people and be there for people, and feeling so beaten down myself from the grief that I haven't even processed.
Yeah.
And my and because me feeling inconsolable myself some days about just the realities of the general reality of death and inevitability of death, but the way it just exists in America now with pandemics and uncared about drug epidemics, uncared about police brutality and state violence, and it's difficult. So this is a song that's just about the trying to get a grip and get through another night of just pain and the hope that you can, I guess, piece it together with other grieving people.
Yeah. Well, so then Jacob talked to me about, writing and trying to match, those sentiments within kind of this world of the band. Yeah.
Well, I mean, first of all, it's definitely it's probably one of my proudest songs I've ever written. I think I do crazy shit all over. I mean, we all do. But at the time, I was just I was very unhappy. I was lonely. I was in a really shitty job that I did not like. I was working crazy hours. Just romantically not doing well. And I was just I don't know. And I was just started to just kind of try to write something that I was trying to express just how I was feeling. I was trying to get it out there. I was trying to do something that felt good, but it was I wanted people to be this is something's going on with this person. He's doing all this crazy shit, all these crazy riffs. And yeah, it just again, it just weirdly we were able to match it up, and just it just ended up working. And it's one of these songs too, where it's I don't know. I was also trying to write my own version of. Oh, sounds like Queens.
Yep, it's Queens.
We were trying. I don't know. It was also super into bands like Transit at the time too, and I was trying my best to write our own version of Cutting Corners by them, because it just these cool big huge riffs and fun instrumental parts, and there's in the studio too. For the most part, all my guitar parts I came up with ahead of time, but it was a lot of honing and crafting and trying to make sure what was there really stood out and made it make sense. And that was me and Matt just working really hard on getting all of that really dialed.
The sixth song on the record, which is Enough Pictures, which kind of ties into If Only. Which we not sure of Enough Pictures, the Memorial Tattoo line, loved that one. So kind of talk to me a little bit about that.
So that song, that was a song that came together very late, literally days before recording. I was I knew the chorus, but I didn't quite know. I had trouble finding a feel for the verses. And, it was one of those things that, right end of July, we just passed the year anniversary, but right before we started tracking, my grandma in the Philippines passed away. And because of COVID restrictions there, because of the advocacy that I've done for Philippine human rights and the way activists are targeted there, and the COVID quarantine would have been government controlled. I couldn't go. And I wrote a little eulogy for her, and I just kind of sat thinking about how I think I'm way better at talking about my joyful experiences with people after they've already died. And I don't think I make it enough of my regular approach. And this was kind of an opportunity to write a song about giving people their roses when you can still smell them. And there's a lot of references to my childhood, specifically my mom. I was raised in a one-parent home for the most part, but I also had a lot of extended family that chimed in. There's allusions to that, but a lot of it is directed at my mom, and a lot of it's just trying to have a song that it's not as good as a real apology, because a real apology you don't record, you just give to somebody. But it's hard to apologize for a general. I feel like I haven't been positive enough or been open enough about the good things, and this was an opportunity to enough pictures of you. This idea of well, it's also a very Cure influenced song, which maybe Jacob can touch on a bit on the musical side of things, but that was just I don't know. It's a song where I got to sing about things that it'll probably exist as a song more than, I don't know. Writing a song about emotions you haven't really verbalized that often is an interesting experience. And I don't know, this was kind of that for me.
Yeah.
I mean, like, musically, I had the chorus. That was about it. And I think we were just like out of practice. Like, we were just trying to write songs when we started playing to get all four of us together again. And it just sounded good. And so that was like a jam that turned into something eventually. It was like a couple of revisions just like on structure and like how long to play this part and that part. But also I do want to shout out to like Andrew, our bass player. One day he was like, hey, like, I think this song could like really use like some synth. And we were just like, yeah, Andrew, go for it. And he like rips out like the coolest, I don't know, like in the choruses, like the coolest little synth part too. And I feel like that's like new waters for, I don't know if that, or us as a band, because we don't really deal in a lot of that, but just like the different sort of soundings. Like, I definitely like from that, like it's like a weird like Cure meets Motion City sort of vibe.
And that little lick, when I referenced the song coming together late in the game, it was that like, I usually like, oh yeah, let's do it. I have enough to go with, but this was one song where like I say, oh, I have enough to go with, and then like usually I sit down and like in like just maybe have a little gummy and just kind of sit on the couch and listen to like the voice memos, and like I'm able to like, all right, sing it out, and then like, okay, no, the melody should actually be this. This was one where it never was like it was like clearly enough of a thing where like, oh yeah, I can definitely do it, but I couldn't quite find the exact pockets. And once Andrew had the little synth part, it was like, ooh, that definitely helps me nail where the chorus, exactly how the chorus melody is going to play. And then from that, I know how the dynamics of the verses are going to be. And then I'll know all this other stuff. But yeah, that was like a really fun experience of like feeling like you had a lot to say, but the music, not quite knowing how to make it fit the music. And then one, thing that comes out of nowhere ends up filling out like the rest of the song.
Yeah. And like my chord, like the riff I have for the chorus is like, it's super broad and simple, and it's just like 3 chords. So like, yeah, you could like, in a sense you can do a lot of different things with that. And that was definitely like, we were kind of like getting into the studio and being like, all right, well, we have to like, it has to be something. It has to be this. And like Matt also, like the engineer that worked on it, like he did a lot with us, and he did a lot of like helping us like hone certain things and like suggestions and like things to add, things to take away. And just like, because like that song was also longer too in the beginning. And he helped us kind of like,
just jump right in. If the intro doesn't serve it, just start with the vote, like have it all start.
Yeah.
Vocals, everything at the beginning. That was great.
Okay, so then moving on, we kind of go back to more of the political kind of the discourse part of with Party's Over, which almost feels like a vote blue no matter who diss track sometimes, or kind of.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, there's a funny moment. I mean, yeah, again, this is one of those songs that's just about how I felt watching, venting about how it felt to have worked in advocacy and or politics, whichever you want to call it, for a while. And then watching people come into it so slow, so late, and just knowing that ooh, you are just waiting to not have to care as much anymore. I can fucking tell.
Yeah.
I can fucking tell. And this is about that whole thing of cause not gonna lie, there was shit was so hairy for a while where you're trying to understand, literally whenever you run into somebody from high school, you'd always be wondering all right, did this guy become a MAGA freak? And I haven't seen them in 4 years. What type of Alex Jones bullshit, am I possibly going to be subject to? Or Tucker Carlson, which brand of crazy bullshit? If it's none, I'll be so happy. It was a relief. It was nice when you were able to, be ooh, thought you were going to be a MAGA person. You're not. That's nice. There was that period of okay, I think we'll be able to get out of Trump, but Trump's a reflection of an issue, not the issue. And the people that didn't care or even think there was a distinction or difference between those is what this song is pointed at.
It just felt like some of the in 2020 when protesting unfortunately became trendy. Seeing all those people who Instagram stories,
New York's hottest event.
Yeah, we're here marching today, and then 2 months later, you're back. They're just back on the bullshit. Yeah.
The way defund the police just completely backslid in polling within 5 months. By the end of 2020, even it was starting to slide, and it was I fucking knew you weren't down to ride. I knew you didn't care.
Yeah.
And this song, I was it was one of those things where writing it, I was yeah, I'm willing to bet Nancy Pelosi is not going to, or the Rachel Maddow watchers, the MSNBC Morning Joe enjoyers are not going to, by the time this song comes out, prove me wrong that they actually didn't care about police being held to account and ending state violence. I was willing to bet that they were not going to. I was willing to bet they were going to prove me right, and they did. So
unfortunately, yeah.
And that's definitely I always joke to Desmond it's our sassiest song too. I love. The super just call out lyrics going on there too. It's just I don't know, your team won. So I forget the whole lyric is, but it's just stuff like that where it's yeah, I knew it. Screw you. I told you so. To people also that would be oh no, this is gonna be a thing. Don't worry. It's also all the black square posters that. Didn't really know what was going on and just kind of because it was the thing to do. It's just definitely an interesting song. And I think all of us, we definitely felt very strongly about that.
I remember when we first got the bounces from Matt, I was we went, Lauren and I went on a vacation to the Poconos. And I just remember we'd just gotten the bounces in. I went to drive and I came back and they were everybody else in the group chat was reacting to it and reacting to the lyrics to that song. Cause they're oh, this is my first time hearing them. I was wow. Okay. Like,
Well, yeah,
oh,
'cause
the
we can always see
Democratic Party. Oh, that's what.
Yeah.
Like, I think that was Andrew's exact message in the chat. But yeah.
Yeah. But then it's just like, again, like I just like we wanted to write like something that was not to sound like an old person, but just like rockin'. And like and in a weird way, like the choruses are super inspired by like, and it's like I feel like it's also like from it's like super inspired by like Foo Fighters riffs and just like big huge, like we just wanted like an anthem really at the end of the day. It's like we wanted like this like big huge, and I feel like there's a lot of like moments on this album where we just like are trying to write a new anthem for like the new age, and just like it's it's a lot of that, and a lot of all of us everybody that is playing on this is just like putting their all into it too, and it's just we're just like super proud of all that.
Yeah. So then not lumped in, but like, again, because this album really works in pairs or trios here. Thanks for Listening, which is like one of my favorite tracks on the album, just because of like how it's laid out. Because it starts out as like this ballad, acoustic, just kind of like outlining all of the kind of the melodrama that comes with witnessing what is almost laid out in Party's Over. And it explodes at the last kind of third into that fiery kind of pop punk anthem. Excuse me. So like, was it something you always kind of planned to start out soft and quiet, more as like a traditional acoustic ballad, or what kind of talk to me about writing the song and kind of where it started? And yeah.
You start this one, Jacob, because I need to turn the light on in my bedroom. It's getting dark.
Well, we would always get for like to answer your first question, it definitely like I love a good build song, especially if you heard the EP and heard Truth Changes. Like you can hear like I love a builder. I love like a slow burn in the beginning to like this huge just like explosion at the end. So that was always the intention. When it came time to recording, I said I really want to do this beginning part acoustic. Like I think it would just like be really cool, and we like started adding in like just like fun elements to keep the song going, keep it fresh. We would often get comparisons to like Third Eye Blind, and I'd only really heard like their two huge singles, just because like I was a little young when the first album came out. And then Desmond said, okay, well, we got to listen to this then. And after hearing Losing a Whole Year, like the intro track, it was like on our drive up state too. I was like, oh, well, like I want us to have our own Losing Our Whole Year. Like I wanted us to like have this like huge, big, and I listened to that song endless amounts of times trying to like come up with something like that I felt like was our version of that. And not trying to like copy or anything, but just like something that I felt like, I don't know, just like had the same sort of energy and emotion and just like that same sort of building energy.
Yeah.
If we say we copied, I mean, then Stephen Jenkins comes after us, and then that's good press. Yeah. So, we might want to say that we
and then Eve 6 will be on our side.
Yeah. But yeah, this song lyrically, I is written. You pretty much got it. It's like put it in a word. It's like a song that's about the feeling of processing burnout, of feeling burnt out at and having to reflect on like feeling burnt out, and I'm feeling burnt out because it feels like I'm not being impactful enough. But it also feels like people that should care. If I can't convince my friends to be just as into, every single thing that I'm into, I'm letting the causes down and I'm failing, but why the fuck do I have to even, it's about like the burnout that comes from having to wrestle with like, why aren't they doing anything? Or why aren't they doing enough? Why am I not getting through to them? What does that say about me? What does that, and this feeling, but also it's honestly kind of a call in on myself of recognizing if I'm so exhausted, it must also be in parts because I'm very exhausting to be around. And I definitely am. and this is a song that is just about the feeling like I've been tuned out and feeling like, why wouldn't you tune me out? With the way I act sometimes, or the way I get really ramped up about things. And it kind of gets to that explosive part that is just kind of while we still have here, we have each other type of, kind of reunion type of feeling.
And then fun fact, this was like before we had any lyrics or anything, like my original idea, I guess, was that was going to be the opener. And that was going to go into Views from the 516. Like it was going to like this big, huge, like slow intro and this like big, loud, explosive outro to like, to have like that like fade out into a new song. But when we started writing the lyrics to all these songs, you're like, well, it doesn't really make sense for these two to like go right next to each other. And it's just like, it felt more right towards the end, even though like sonically, like the two songs are in the similar key, and it just, yeah. That's the inside scoop if you listen to the podcast.
Absolutely. And I feel like, Thanks for Listening was probably like, a great song to play live just because of how explosive that section is.
Yeah, we've only played it a couple times live, but definitely the first time we played it live was, I think, the best performance we did of it. And maybe on some level because of just like, fuck it, let's go for it. Like type of feeling.
You get in the beginning of the song, people like whispering and chit-chatting to yourself because it's like slow and acoustic. And then by the time you get to the end, though, they're like, oh, shit. And like, it's just like headbanging along. And, yeah, it's a fun one.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay, so then we're at the final track on the album, which is 21,000 Questions, which is, it ends the album on almost a hopeful note, which comparatively to the EP is a bit of a change of pace for Career Day and listening to y'all's releases. So talk to me about this one.
Yeah. So this is another, love song of sorts. Definitely, it's kind of about, if a new title is the feeling of really beginning to embark on a path together. The 21,000 Questions is about how it feels to have that, how lucky you are to have it, like understanding how lucky it is, but dealing with the anxiety that kind of comes with like, oh God, please, I can't lose you. Like, no, I can't. The thought scares me. And it's about like the way the love itself beats that anxiety, beats the anxieties of the world. And this is a song definitely that lays in kind of allusions to like, damn, you're keeping it together after all this. And this is a song that is kind of about like the person, the feeling, the people that keep you in, and the feeling of them keeping you on.
Gotcha. Jacob, what about the writing process for you on this one?
Yeah, so this was another, like, it started out as like a full, like the full band was jamming. Like we were like another writing session where all of us were together, and we had finished what we were working on, and I just started like doing like noodling around and like just came up with that like beginning intro ish kind of, and like it just kind of formed from there. After like that practice, took it home and tried to like refine it, and then Des and I got together and tried to like workshop it together. And like, but it's like, I really love the chords in it. I really love, the choruses are fun, but especially like some standout moments for me in that song are the second verse. I love when bands do a really good, like like just like second verses in general are always my favorite, especially if they do something fun and different on the second versus the first. That like it's like honestly like its own like standout moment that like I don't know, like I feel like Story So Far does that all the time, where like the second verse has like just as much importance as the chorus. In my opinion, like their fans will just like gravitate. Like I mean, they sing every word, but like certain like parts like that, and then also the bridge. Like I really love that too. Like the palm mute, like Tom DeLonge-esque palm mute bridge thing going on, and also like the mix on it gives us this beautiful like Drive Through Records era sound, and it was just like a bridge that I had always wanted to write, just like something that like builds into this cool thing, and then we get like a quarter note loud and slow thing going on, exploding back into the chorus. I don't know, it's just like another. I'm just trying to think of the best way to describe it, because it's like weird talking about like like the stuff that you don't really think about it while you're doing it. You know what I mean? But like looking back on it, it's just like another similar to a New Title, like a ballady sounding song, but I really wanted to like just, and it's got a lot of parts, and it's got a lot of moments in it, and I just really wanted it to be a song where every bit of information and sound and chord like really shine through, because it's the last song on the album.
Gotcha.
It's like the thing. It's something that you want to stick with people.
Yeah. Well, cool. I that's the album. I really appreciate you taking me through track by track. It's always fun to hear more about it. I like to hear the little fun facts to what I'm listening to. One thing that I really kind of took away from listening to you all tell me about it is like how intentional you were about both like the meaning of these songs and how they were put together and how you wanted them to come across for such an important release for a band. You kind of talk about it's not only it's your debut record, Desmond, it's your first album you've written. I don't know, Jacob, if this is also your first record.
Yeah.
Okay, so then talk to me what you were thinking about going into making this as you were moving on, or even like kind of leveling up, quoting from lack of a better terms, from the EP. Like, what were your thoughts and wanting to like people to know about Career Day? Because like Desmond, you mentioned you didn't think like people you wanted more. You said you'd assume more people were going to be listening to this than they did Pride Was Somewhere Else.
Yeah, I mean, so for me, one of my motivations for it and approaches was basically that knowing, just feeling so desperate and horrified and useless to address anything of serious pain in the world. Like for me, I kind of had this approach of, you know what, I understand not everybody can read every text or article or attend every rally or sit in on every, political education, Zoom thing. But people can give 2.5 to 3 minutes to a song. And if I can make songs about things that I really want people to engage with more, and if I know I want to, play music and have fun, this is a way that I can, how can I make songs that I would be proud to deal with all the annoying band stuff, like, of managing schedules, practicing, book, like, we're trying to put in merch orders now, like all this stuff, like booking shit, like all of that. But like the thing that will make it the most fun and the thing that I think would motivate me to push it more is if I can find ways to take these things that I like talking about and feel passionate about and put them into songs that are structured and very familiar, accessible, kind of song formats to get the word across. Basically, how can I combine thinking about, being in high school and seeing Rise Against and Starting Line on two different stages and Warped Tour? What if we just made them, Wall of Death into each other?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what about you, Jacob? What were your thoughts and feelings and like your intentional steps that you were taking as you're going into writing, and working on this record?
Well, I think especially between the two of us, we were thinking you get to do this once. In a way, like with a band, you get to do your first record once, and you want it to count. You want it to, because some bands, they don't get to do another one, or either way, we wanted to treat everything that we do. We treat like it's our last day on this earth. Like we want everything to be. We want to feel like everything is important and intentional, and that we're putting our all into it. And writing this record at first for me was not the easiest. I think I mentioned before I was I was just going through the motions in COVID, and I was super. I was having a lot of writer's block for a while, and the second that I started coming up with stuff, I said, "Well, I really need to keep this going," and kept writing and wanting to just really write an album that 14-year-old me would be super hyped on. And I want this to be, I want this to be a legacy amongst people where we are someone's gateway band. And but then that gateway band is telling an important story and writing really good and solid songs. And I think that was just for me the most important element of all of this.
Do you guys feel that you achieved the goals you had set in your brain?
Yeah, I would say so. It's wild just because the album existed as a concept in my head for so long. To have it out, it you always have, and congrats on your new song. Awesome.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's one of those things where, you're, there's always going to be little things what if maybe this little, the minutia, the things that come up when you're on the fourth or fifth round of mixing a song, where you're those little things will creak here and there for me. But for the most, it's just if my overly self-critical brain is not embarrassed, then I feel proud at what I've done. And that is something that is immutable, I think.
What about you, Jacob? Do you feel like you've reached that benchmark for yourself?
I think so. I mean, I'm very curious and anxious to hear how people receive it. But from what people have seen us play from it live and what I've shown people, I think we've done what we've set out to do. And I'm excited for whatever we do next. But and I think Desmond hit a lot of it on the head too.
Yeah. Okay, well then we're kind of moving into my final questions here. I always like to ask, do you what were some of your favorite moments or standout kind of times from working on this record? I know when we were going through the track by track, you were hitting on working in the studio and kind of tightening things up like that. But what for you guys personally, what was something that you go to when thinking about the process of creating Where We Always Been?
One of the things for me is probably it was there. It literally was the days that I got to track, so on a personal level, the tracking days, because a lot of the tracking days, the way schedules lined up, it was just me and Matt.
Okay.
And it was it couldn't become any more dramatic than me and one dude in the basement of his dad's carpet store,
Yeah.
just the booth, singing these things out, and like talking about like cooling down between tracks, like talking, and then going into it. And it was just it was like it couldn't have been a better scenario in terms of like for how thought out and how like obsessive making this album was. That was a nice way to make the recording intimate. Collectively, I just think the writing the writing trips that we made up to the upstate house were just, it was so nice to just have a weekend of just drinking rum and coke and watching
Trailer Park Boys.
Nice.
And one of them aligned with an Islander playoff game. So like we had a day of writing like 3 or 4 songs.
Yeah.
And then like just being absolutely zonked watching the Islanders win like a nail biter playoff game. And then Bo Burnham's Inside dropped that weekend too.
Damn.
So I was like, man, this is a great fucking day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think about that day in particular. But Jacob, what about you?
I think like to kind of piggyback off of that, like hearing the songs come to life for the first time was always my favorite part. Like when we were finally able to have all the like everybody in the room together to like actually hear a full band version of it. Especially like for songs like for Drowning, for Views from the 516. I mean, so many of the songs on the album, like just like getting to hear all of us playing together, and like how things would start to kind of meld and mold and change based on how we were reacting to each other in the room and off of each other's energy. I guess like on an individual level though too, just like with when we were tracking and getting to really play around with all of the like sounds. I feel like we spent how we would try maybe like, I guess it would technically be, it was all individual little days here and there, but I think it probably added up to a week's worth of just like tracking guitar and like just like working through that and getting it super dialed in and like getting to add fun stuff, like hit it like on enough pictures of you during the bridge. I make this like gnarly noise that we spent way too long trying to get just gnarly enough. Or like finally nailing the crazy bridge and If Only that I had written and technically knew how to play, but the second that we tried, and also too, like it was for me, it was a humbling experience because I felt like I went into it, I was super confident. I knew the songs. I came up with all my parts. Like I knew what I was doing, and I had trouble recording, and I had to like really work at it. And like I felt like I got better as a player just from sitting down and having Matt be like, "Nope, do it again.
Yeah.
Nope, do it again. All right, just this like 4 bars. Do it again." But yeah.
There's something about the microscope of the studio that like you're a better player at the once you're done, but when you're there, it's brutal.
Let me tell you, yeah, singing is like that, but like it was you that made that noise.
Yeah.
You know? And it was like, ooh.
And you never like the way you sound to begin with either.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't sound right in your head.
You're going to be thinking about that one for the rest of your life. You're going to think about that take the rest of your life, huh?
Yeah. The cringe moments that come back late at night.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah.
Nope. That's it. That, like the ones where like, oh, you're just like 2 notes in, you're like, no, this take sucks. This is not going to be it.
Yeah.
Let's go home.
Yeah. Alrighty.
But yeah.
Yeah. So then what do you guys have coming up that people should be aware of that's coming up with Career Day?
So if you're listening to this, the album's already out. So please, if you've sat through us talking about the whole album at this point, but didn't listen to it already, please do. It'll definitely, you'll be like, oh yeah, that's what they were talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, we are as I mentioned, we're starting to play shows. We have a live lineup, and we are the weekend at the end of August in Philly, New York City, and Jersey.
Okay.
So hit our socials at Career Day NY for info on that. We're going to be branching out. We got some New England stuff in the fall. We're hoping maybe early next year, who knows? But, we definitely want to branch out quite a bit, at least regionally. So, we're hoping with remote work capabilities and all that, we'll be able to get out there to the Midwest. So many of our songs are ripoffs of Midwest emo songs.
Of that Midwest sound.
Yeah. So we have to come back to the scene of the plagiarism.
Mm-hmm.
But that's we have some videos in the works right now.
Awesome.
Video maybe is in the work. Keep your eyes out. But I mean, outside of that, look, we have merch on the way that if, once any of these 7 emails that I spent my entire lunch break sending out, hit me back with something that feels like is fair trade, but not something that is going to make selling the shirts impossible.
Yeah.
We really we wrote these songs intentionally. Every step of the way, because we want them to be heard. We want them to be heard everywhere. Like, I'm big anti-imperialist guy. I want to play these songs all over the world, but I definitely want to play them all over the country.
Yeah.
And, people that feel like they wish that, that classic pop punk emo kind of sound, if they felt that could have injected into it, an urgency of reality. This is that album, and we really would love for people to hear it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a fantastic record. I've been loving listening to it since you sent it to me. So
awesome.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Your coffee, paid attention to us at the EP. We didn't forget. That's why I reached out to you.
Yeah.
Like I was like, it meant a lot. It is just, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. January 6, 2021, Your Coffee, Career Day 1.
Yeah.
Here we are.
That was a weird day for me, besides for multiple reasons.
Yeah.
But that too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, it's great. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Of course. No, I appreciate you reaching out again. You have physical merch or physicals of the record available so people can purchase on your Bandcamp.
Yep, careerday.ny.bandcamp.com. We got CDs, and we got compacts, and we got tapes, and we'll see about the future.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, Desmond, Jacob, thank you so much for taking some time to chat with me.
Thank you
for having us.
The Ear Coffee Podcast is a companion to the blog of the same name. If you like this episode, please leave us a rate and review so we can stand out among the other music podcasts. You can follow us at Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Ear Coffee. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.